Stephanie Milky here, aka KetoMOM, or often called mom, sis, Steffi, daughter, wife, aunt, and friend. Just like many of you, I carry a lot of titles. My favorite title is mom. I should probably say wife, which takes a lot of my time. But let's be honest, if you want to do something and do it well, you will make the time for it. Commitment is hard because we find ourselves overcommitted, but when you practice prioritizing, you will find out what is actually important and what you can let go. With the KetoMOM podcast, you will learn together how to manage our time, commit to the most important things in life, and I will equip you with the tools you need to feel qualified each step of the way. My name is Stephanie Milky, and welcome to the KetoMOM Secrets podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to the KetoMOM page. My name is Stephanie. We're diving into the Power to Change book. We are on chapter 4.1. And today's topic conversation is something that you've actually probably heard. So it's going to be a reminder for, I'm going to guess, probably 80% of you. For those of you who've never heard this, then guess what? It's going to be something new that you're going to hear. It's going to open up your mind. It's going to give you a new awareness, and you're going to dominate your week.
That's a pretty big claim.
It is. It's true.
It is a pretty big claim, but we're believing that if you apply the principles that we're going to be teaching today, found in this book, guess what? You have the power to change.
If you are brand new and you've never watched any of these every single morning, well, usually during the week we hop on, we do some lives around a book. We've been doing it for almost 2 years. You can go to ketomomsecrets.com, click on mindfulness, go through the books that we've done in the past, tons of incredible books, or watch the most recent lives that we've done in this book. Today's topic is called Fanatical Consistency. We're not going to read the chapters to you, but I'm going to give you an overview, and then we're going to talk about it. And I'm actually going to, he told me something this morning. I'm going to throw him under the bus without actually telling him
the place where
what
I
I wanted him to say.
The place where I live.
Well,
under the bus.
So just so you know, I read this morning. He's already read the entire book. My husband has done an incredible job at putting this book into action. I will tell you, last night I had the most aha moment of my life around this book.
Wow.
I want to share something with you.
I am excited to hear this.
I know. It actually really is. So here's the basics of this chapter. How do successful people become successful? How do you ever see somebody? Have you ever said this before? And we've said, in
lucky.
My family,
they're lucky.
Yes, people will say, "Man, they just got lucky." I actually hate the word luck. I hate it because I don't believe there's any such thing as luck. There's hard work. He talks about how when you look at somebody and maybe you've said they've got lucky, he goes, there might be a handful of people that their parents handed them down something. But in general,
but that is biblical.
Yes, legacy. But he says, how do successful people become successful? Successful people are not lucky. They're consistent. And the whole chapter is about consistency, whether you take it from a biblical standpoint or a scientific standpoint. He talks about the consistency that they achieve their wins because of countless seemingly small actions and decisions, made consistently over time. This consistency gives them the power to change.
I love it.
So
you have a lot of underlines.
I have a lot of underlines, but and I have there's a lot of things. But I had this realization yesterday.
Guess what?
I really
Sometimes
wanted
you just have to go with the flow.
Well,
I don't know what's going on here,
okay,
but I'm ready.
So if you've been watching all the lives, Steve feels like he has been, what is the word that you shared with Anthony?
Was delivered.
He was delivered from the power of the addiction of sugar, right? He's really having incredible revelation, honestly, from the Lord. And last night he was so excited. He prayed about something. He's like, listen, I'm hearing from God again. That's another story. Usually when you're disobedient or if you feel like you're not hearing from the Lord, go back to the last thing he said, do that, and then you will have more guidance. That was just
that's a tangent.
Okay, but here's the deal.
It's extra. That's a bonus.
That's a bonus tip.
If you're writing things down.
So I have been challenged with a hurt back. If you've been watching my stories, doesn't really matter, but my back has been giving me some problems.
Well, it does matter for everybody who's in your physical.
It does matter
presence.
Okay. So so Steve was having me go through these crazy stretches last night. Here's what I used to say. And I've said this many times. I'm going to start stretching, right? I'm going to start stretching. Have I not said that for years? I'm going to work on my stretching. I'm going to work on my flexibility.
The best shape of my life.
Right. Yeah. So I have said this over and over and over again. Like maybe some of you have said, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get financially free. I'm going to have a better marriage. Whatever you've said over and over. Ready. But you find that you've not been achieving that. So I have said this for years. I'm going to start stretching. Right?
Yes. Yes, you have.
Well, as I was laying on the ground last night and Steve was helping me stretch and it was so painful and my back is being healed, I legitimately laid on the ground and I went, oh my goodness. I actually, did I not tell you like for an hour? I'm like, hey, I need some stretches. Hey, help me stretch, right? Like I was like, I have to do this. I was doing weird moves. And you want to know why I actually did it? And I'm committed to stretching every single day. It's switched. It's because of this book. I was laying on the ground and I had this thought pop into my head. You guys, I'm really excited about this.
I can tell. I
had this thought pop into my head.
You can tell she's excited.
I'm sweating.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
She's intense.
Because
Girls, take
when
notes.
you read this book and you start with the who before the do, right? You start with who are you becoming? If you start with like why you're doing what you're doing because it's going to affect who, then you actually do the habit and the action. Do you want to know why I'm going to start stretching? Because I had a realization that you can be super fit. Like we've been focused on strength. We've been focused on building muscle. We've been eating well. Like I feel like I've been taking care of my body, but you want to know the one thing I have not been doing?
What's that?
Stretching. And if one thing goes wrong in your body and when you have pain, how quickly does it affect the rest of your life?
Impacts everything.
So this back pain, while I don't feel like I've been I haven't been complaining. They can tell when my back hurts because I get up with this agony on my face.
Oh, but so what you're saying is nonverbal communication is a real thing.
But what I had this realization laying on the floor last night and I went, you want to know why I'm going to stretch every single day? Because I can go to the gym, I can work on my food, but one injury, which was caused by my inflexibility and not stretching, whatever actually caused the pain in my back, whether it was the 40 hours of driving or I kinked it funny, is unacceptable. And so I said, if I actually want to be the best version of me for our kids and then going on into my elderly age, listen, I'm 40. I am strong and mighty. I'm going to be youthful. And if I'm going to take care of my body, I laid down last night and I was like, this hurts really bad. This actually really sucks. It actually is really, really, really hard. But if I don't do this today, I'm going to pay for it when I'm older.
Because we are living to be 120.
120. And if I'm going to live a long and healthy, incredible, strong, amazing life where I can be on the ground and be limber and someday play with our grandkids, and let's just say even focus with our children today, I have to do this. So it switched, right? It wasn't a goal that I set out years ago. I mean, you guys have said this for years. I'm going to get flexible. I'm going to stretch every day because I know it's important.
I love it.
But last night I finally tied it to who I'm becoming. If I don't do this, I will pay for it in the future. It really hurts right now, really bad. And it's super, super hard. Does this make sense? I tied it to the who.
Stephanie,
does it make sense?
This is everybody.
Tell me that it makes sense.
It's everybody's
Does this make sense?
Understanding because I'm seeing emojis. I'm seeing comments that you're
hyped
up. That you're excited.
First time
I've never seen you like this.
I've tied the who to my action, which I'm going to be doing it every day because I need to.
And now I see how you feel. So like this book has become how it's been helpful.
And even us talking about how like usually when you're doing something, it's going to be painful now, but it'll pay off in the end. Mm-hmm. It's so painful to do what I have to do, but it will help me in the end. If I don't do it now, I will pay for it long term.
There it is.
All right. The who before the do. And the only thing that this chapter talked about was consistency. People don't get lucky. They're little consistent actions over time. So he was helping me stretch last night. And I was like, how long do I have to do this? And I'm like flailing on the ground and I'm not breathing. And he's like, breathe. And I said, how long before I get more stretchier? And he's like, I don't know, months. And I was like, okay. So
I mean,
consistency.
Think about this. So usually Stephanie has to answer the questions, why have I not lost 10 pounds?
Yes.
Why have I not lost 40 pounds yet?
Why am I still overweight?
Think about it. Like take what you just asked. Like, how long do I have to keep working on flexibility before I'm stretching?
I mean, if I'm stretchy by the end of the year,
how many years have you?
I have been inflexible and I have not stretched my entire life.
Do you think that just by one day?
No.
By 1 week?
But I'm committed because I know who I want to be in the future. And I do not want to deal with pain or pulling muscles. I'm not saying that I wouldn't do that at the gym, but it will be least likely if I'm stretching.
So how many of you are going to committed, like Stephanie, to become more stretchier?
No, I need you to tie what you want to do to who you're becoming. Like, it's the who before the do. Go read the book. If you haven't read the book, listen, I'm going to be stretching every single night. I told my husband, you better be committed with me because I need you to stretch out my legs, do all of the things. It hurts.
There it is.
All right.
And that's why accountability and having a partner
he is going to talk because I have something that I want him to share. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know. But it says successful people do consistently what other people do occasionally.
All right, there it is.
Whether it's in your marriage, finances, your fat loss, consistent action.
In your relationships.
All of the things.
All of that stuff. Intentionality is so important.
Right. He says, remember, training is doing today what you can do today so that you can do tomorrow what you can't do today.
I love that line.
You want to read it?
Yeah, I would say write that down. Remember, training is doing today what you can't do today, what you can do today, so you can do tomorrow what you can't do today.
Like touching my toes.
Yes.
By the end of the year.
Consistency over time.
Right.
And it's also interesting too. I don't even know where I heard this, but it was from a doctor of some sort, probably a flexibility coach somewhere, but they were talking specifically about becoming more stretchier. And so the thing is with Stephanie, her legs bent like this.
Guys, it hurts so bad.
Hold on, it's like bent like this. And it is almost comical.
It is a challenge, and I've realized it is a very terrible thing I have not
done. But where her legs stopped stretching, I mean, you would look at it and you say, are you serious? But her brain is putting up a mechanism that tells her, you're done. You can't go any further. Stop it. It's causing too much pain.
Right.
And if I should maybe just record it from my point of view, because this is like, she's
I'm
going
flailing.
Like this.
It hurts.
She's holding her breath.
I'm like screaming.
So the point is that's happening in your life in certain areas.
Yeah. Where are you flailing or screaming?
My mental battle right now is around cold water exposure.
So that's what I'm going to step into next. This, my husband is a biohacker. If you don't know what that means, like he loves all thing biohacking. If you don't know what that means, he loves red light. You might be, he wasn't going to talk about this, but like, look at this little thing that he's got tied to his ears. Right now. We've got so many crazy things. He's like, listen, do you want to know what if you watch my stories, we watched a crazy document, incredible document about grounding yesterday. Like he loves all things that can truly heal and help your body. And part of it is eliminating some of the easy things that we've allowed into our life and actually doing the things that we need to be doing.
That's good. I like it. What James said, alignment is refinement.
Does that have to do with my stretching?
Yeah, I mean, what are you aligning in your life? What are you being intentional?
I'm aligning my back is what I'm doing.
What I was basically going to say is her brain is putting up a defense. Like, no more. Don't go any further. And the reality is she actually could stretch a lot further.
Once I relaxed and I eased into the pain that was terrible. Because you were like, hey, you relaxed a little bit.
I know. You can sense it. So, all right. I didn't know this was all going to be about stretching. I just had this revelation. Today. Yeah,
well,
this is great.
I mean, okay, so he says this. I'll give you an action, but then I'm going to have my husband share something with you because it has to go on this.
I'm ready.
So here's basically what he says is today, through small and consistent decisions, you're getting somewhere a little at a time. Right. And so he says, what's one thing you have done occasionally that you want to be fanatically consistent with? If you're taking notes or you wanted to do an action, what is one thing that you do occasionally that you want to start doing fanatically consistently? And I can begin or increase my efforts to put in by 10,000 hours. Oh, he talks about the power of doing something for 10,000 hours. So I'm going to tell you that it seems daunting if I were to say, I hope I can touch my toes by the end of the year. But in reality, I have done this to myself for 40 years. And so I can't expect to get there overnight. I'm going to have to be fanatically consistent with stretching at night before I go to bed. And then I'll show you how in the next, what would it be, 8 months, where my flexibility will be.
All right. So for those of you who are just tuning in, we want you to comment new down below. We'd love to connect with you. We'd love to hear your story. We'd love to figure out what some of your goals are, what you're dreaming for in life. But it's fascinating if you're just tuning in. For those of you who've tuned into a lot of these, you've heard us say so often, it's about the who before the do.
Right.
That's what Craig's really getting at with the whole summary of this book. So if I was just tuning in right now, I would have just heard you say, I'm going to be stretching every day. I'm going to become fanatically consistent with stretching.
Every day.
But why?
Because I need to make sure that I'm the healthiest version of me. It's not for me at 40, because I know my back will feel better and I know it'll get fixed, but I will not, and I'm not going to tolerate being in pain or allow my body to be susceptible to getting injured if I don't do this.
Powerful. Here's another reality is, will she be able to commit to that when her stretching coach is not there?
Yeah,
will
sure
she
will.
be able
I totally will. I'm committed
to that?
I am committed.
When you have a busy, frantic lifestyle.
I'll even post it on my story every night. I'm stretching in some way, shape, or form.
Here's why I say that, and here's why I ask that. Because so often people like to place blame on their circumstances or their situations.
I won't blame you.
I'm not saying you would.
Oh.
I'm saying it's a pattern that most people have, is they just want to say, oh, there's a reason why I haven't lost my weight. There's a reason
too late.
Why
it's
I
my
haven't
friend's
done
fault.
A, B, and
my
C.
kids won't eat the same foods I eat.
Right.
I was working late. I was tired.
We have to, and the reality is like when you truly identify the real why.
Because this goes right into what I want him to share with you.
I don't even know what we're going to talk about, but it's
all right.
Resonating on my heart is the fact when you have a true understanding of why you do what you do, it makes all that behavior modification, it makes all of those habits just make it almost like it makes them more achievable and more desirable to push through the pain, to do the hard things.
Yeah, 100%. So we got up this morning. I was reading this book. I said, hey, we're going to talk about the power of consistency. And then Steve said, he came out, he must have been listening to a podcast this morning. And I said, oh, this is great. I noted it. And I said, I'm going to have him share this today. So you're going to get a bonus tip, not about the book, but he listened to something and he came out and he said, do you know what the one word that defines, what did you say? The one word that is it's a differentiator between people. So we went to a funeral.
Okay. So what would be, so I guess you could ask the question is like, what do you think is the most important, like what is the characteristic that comes to mind that differentiates someone who's successful compared to somebody who's maybe complacent or is full of excuses?
Right. And
let's just say not winning.
Yes.
What's the difference between someone who's successful and winning compared to the person who just makes excuses and sits on the sideline of life?
Well, so I was reading the book. He came out this morning. It's like, what is a word or a characteristic? And I was like, consistency. I'm reading about it. And he's like, yes. And so we were at a funeral yesterday. It was truly an incredibly beautifully, it was an incredible celebration of life.
Yeah.
And the one word that people kept saying about this young man was, he was so, and then they said this word. And I walked out of the funeral and Steve and I were, and he was like, hey, what did you think of that? I was like, man, that was powerful. Like his impact on people's lives, like the touch that he had on people's lives. And it was all based on this one word. And then you must have listened to something. So share with me, you said the 2 words today, just share whatever you shared with me when you were sitting at the table, because I think it's super powerful and I think it could bless somebody on here.
All right. I was just reading through the words: accountability, determination, fear. That's an interesting one. Consistent effort. All right. So the word, and you said consistency this morning. I think all of those things are amazing to apply to your life. But the word that we took away from yesterday and what was really driven home this morning was intention. Like, what is your intention? How are you being intentional in your life? And so we talk often about the Kazone wheel, kind of defining your life through your relationships with your finances, with your emotions, your spiritual walk, and your work life. Mm-hmm. And all of these things make up a wheel. Like, I just think about this. I like to see circles. I just really like circles. So you got the circle, and that's what makes up the wheel. It's those 5 components. But if any one of those are out of alignment, or if any one of them are out of order, or if they're broken, or you just don't want to focus on
one of the spokes.
I mean, think about your car wheels. If you're driving down the highway and there's a crack or something broken in the wheel. It's not perfectly circle. Like when it hits that part, it just can blow up the whole tire. And the thing that we took away from yesterday was that this man, while he lived a short life, he lived an impactful life because every day he was intentional.
Right.
Every day he was intentional. He knew who he was. He knew what he was doing, but he was intentional with his family and with his friends. He was intentional in his life. And while there's so many different questions that we don't know the answers to, and we may never know the answers to on this side of life, the thing that I know is that this man from when he encountered grace and until his last day on earth, this man was intentional about how he prayed for people, how he talked with people, how he lived,
how he saw people.
And we can come up with all the excuses in the world why we're not living our best life now, why we're not stretchier, why we're not fitter, why we're not happier. But the reality is you have to come to the place to where you truly have an understanding of who you are. And I would say who you are in Christ, because when you have that truth, that's what starts walking out a life that is lived on intention.
Good.
And so I'd say any area in your life, like whatever it is that you're focused on in those 5 areas, it's a beautiful thing because that's something that you have awareness for.
Right.
And when you have awareness for that area that needs to be improved, that's when you start making the intentional improvements, the intentional behavior modifications, the intentional changes, the intentional habits. But if you're just kind of caught up in the hypnotic rhythm of life and you're just kind of like, oh, I'll deal with that later, or I'll become stretchier later, or when I have my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, then I'll be intentional. And you want to know the unfortunate thing is it usually takes something that really rocks you to a point to where you almost, that wheel gets broken, or your sciatic nerve has a challenge.
Hurts so bad.
Or the sad reality is somebody dies. For your mindset to get so rattled to where you're like, oh, it's right now that I need to be intentional. It's right now that I need to be intentional. That's also a beautiful thing, because for the people who still have breath in their lungs, and for those of you who are tuning in and watching this right now, if it's live or if it's on the replay or if it's on a podcast or whatever form you're hearing this, the reality is right now is the perfect time to be intentional in your life. It's a perfect time to say, you know what? I'm done with the distractions. I'm done with the blame game. I'm done with saying all the reasons why I haven't been able to do the things that I was called and created to do. It's my moment right now. I have the awareness. I want to be intentional. And for some people, it might be like, I don't even know where to start. Send us a message. We'd love to talk with you. We'd love to come up with a specific game plan just for you, for how you can win in life. But I want to encourage you, for those of you who have a relationship with Jesus, take some time today and say, Father, what am I supposed to do? Like, what can I do to be more intentional with how you've created me to make an impact that's going to shake nations? Because the reality is there's greatness in you because greatness made you. And so I don't know if that's what you wanted me to say.
I love it.
But the reality is, like, let's push away all the distractions. Let's push away the excuses. Let's just take ownership. Let's become the great book, Extreme Ownership. Take extreme ownership of where you're at today. And if your financial margins haven't been the greatest in the past, if your eating decisions haven't been the greatest in the past, if you haven't been stretching like you said you would in the past, if fill in the blank, if you're still 40, 50, 100 pounds overweight, guess what? It's in the past. It's in the past. There's no reason to beat yourself up. Let's take extreme ownership. Let's get intentional. Let's come up with a game plan. Let's understand who we are so we can start changing the things that we want to do. Because here's what's really cool. In 1 year from today, we can be celebrating and we can look back and we could say, oh my goodness, look at how far I've came. And when you start getting some momentum, start getting some small wins. When you think you've lost something and you take a moment and you're like, Lord, where did I put this? And it's as silly as that may seem. We're like, Lord, what's my next step? We can get so caught up in the big picture of all the things. What's the next step? What is the one thing you can do today to become more intentional? And for some of you, it may be just pausing just enough to ask yourself the question, Why do I want to become more stretchier? Why do I want to?
Why do
and
I
if
want
you
to
can
stretch?
identify
Why do
that,
I want to work on
identify
that
the
part of my
who.
health? It's good.
And once you identify the who, I'm telling you right now, to fill in the blank of all the habits and the stuff to do, that's really easy to do.
Yep, I love it. So the only thing I would say is it also can get into your mindset of, oh my goodness, you might get frustrated because you don't see the result right away. I know it's going to take me months, if not the rest of this year, to whatever I think flexibility looks like. But every single day I'm going to celebrate. So you take your day today and you take those little wins. Celebrate that you didn't spend the extra money, or you said no to the gas station snacks, or celebrate that you packed your lunch, or celebrate that you went to the gym, celebrate that you went on a date with your spouse. Like, celebrate those daily actions, because that's where you have the win, and that's where the consistency comes in. You're intentional instead of distracted, and you're going to be consistently every single day do those little daily actions, which sets you apart, and you're going to celebrate at the end of the day. So every single day I'll celebrate that I stretched, and I might not feel like, oh my goodness, this is going to take a long time. But if I celebrate every single day, it's important. So that's it.
I love it.
All right.
Hope you found value in
Thanks
this.
for tuning in.
If you did, thank you for the great comments. If you can, share this.
We'd love for you to press the share button.
Tag somebody down below who you think that this could relate to, or something that you think that they need to hear. Here's the reality: we're better together. So the more people who can join you on your journey, I'm just telling you, your odds and success go through the roof when you start including the people you love and you care about on your journey, on your mission to greatness.
I love it. You can always go to KetoMomSecrets.com, click on the book club, and go watch all the other videos. You can click on food, how to get started, ketones, whatever you want to learn. Send me a message. I'd love to help. I hope you guys have an incredible day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.